Good morning and welcome to Writers Chat. No, I'm not Jean. I'm Cherrilynn Bisbano. Jean and Bethany and the gang are on the road, and Bethany's kids are sick, so please pray for them. And Johnny's on the road. Vicky and I are going to co-host. Hi, Vicky. And this is going to be an open mic. This is genre chat. It's not genre chat, I'm sorry, writer's chat. I do a genre chat so, as well. But this writer's chat is about conferences. How many people here have been to a writer's conference? Say aye.
Aye.
Yes. Are they worth it?
Yes.
Yes. Well, for this hour, we're going to discuss writers conferences, how to get there, what to expect when you're there, should we go? And if we can't go, how can we go next year? Hi, Tina. Hi, everybody. Hi, Nick. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Sophia and Renee. But Vicki, tell me a little, how many conferences have you been to, Vicki?
I have been to 4 now, one being one that I managed. So I don't know if you count that one.
We were going to talk about different aspects of being at a conference as well, because I think some people here have taught at conferences, haven't they? Anybody here taught at a conference?
Yes, I have.
Okay, Robin, tell us about your experience teaching at a conference, and then Tina, you tell us about your experience. And tell us how it's your experience, and tell us how it's different from attending a conference as a conferencee.
Well, it's frightening. Because you're certain everyone there is smarter than you, and everyone
Amen.
there is better than you, and they look better, they smell better, and everything is just, I mean, that's where your head goes, right?
Yes,
that's where your head goes. But it's really nice because you get to know people that from a different view, and we are all on the same journey of writing, and everyone has pearls that we can bring along with us. And in fact, I taught about what to expect at a writers conference.
So can you expound on that a little bit, and then we'll go to Tina. Can you expound on what you taught on what to expect? Because some people, anybody going to a writers conference for the first time? I know some people listening may be going to a writer's Sophia is going to a writer's conference. So because this is open mic, I don't want to be the only one speaking. You have pearls of wisdom. Robin, share with us, what should we expect at a writer's conference? Am I putting you on the spot?
Oh, no. Okay. Oh, yeah, but that's fine, because that's what happens at a writer's conference.
Yeah.
And, you will drink out of a fire hose. You will get way more information than you ever anticipated.
Yeah.
You will meet people that are like-minded, and your soul will be refreshed, because when you try to explain writing to your friends at home, they might not get it. But these people understand the necessity of chocolate. They understand the necessity of good coffee, and they understand that you are working on a time frame that is really crazy, and you have to make sacrifices. You have to learn about branding and social media, and your friends don't get that. So you will meet like-minded people. So you need to seek those out and just be willing to take it in.
That's great information, Robin. Now, Tina, you taught at a conference as well. Tell us what you experienced as a teacher, vice being a conferencee.
Well, before I taught, I had been to so many conferences. Since 2006, I've been going every year, sometimes a couple of times a year. So I remember what it was like to be at that first conference and to feel like I just got squashed, and to have all of my expectations of getting my book to this big publisher and right away getting a publishing contract. And, you come with all these big, huge expectations and dreams, and then you're disappointed because you don't have those fulfilled. But what I I've found is if you come with the expectation of entering a community of fellowship of writers and networking with people and learning and growing as a writer and becoming more than you were the year before, more than you were every day than the day before, that is the dream that you can fulfill in writers' conferences. We are a family, especially at Christian writers' conferences. We are so supportive of one another. And what I loved about teaching is that I felt like I had more authority to be supportive. I learned one time God spoke to me before I went to Blue Ridge, and he said, I want you to be a servant. And the whole time, because he said that, I was aware of it. I was looking for times when I could be a servant, and it was the most rewarding experience ever. And so as a faculty member, to be able to be a servant means so much. It's just so rewarding to be able to be that vessel that God uses. I love that about teaching at writers' conferences.
Amen. Yes, I taught at the Greater Philly Writers Conference, and like Deborah said, I always wonder if anyone will show up for my workshop.
Yeah.
And I was wondering that because it was the first time, this last year was the first time I ever taught at a writers conference, and I taught the right prayer, which we talked about last week. And I thought nobody's going to show up. And then I said to myself, well, I remember a pastor saying, if only one person shows up, you're going to feed them anyway. You know, like if only one horse showed up in the barn, you're going to feed it. So you're still going to teach. And it's just so wonderful what God does at writing conferences. Anybody else want to talk? David, I know you've taught at writers conferences, haven't you? I don't think he can hear me. David?
No, I can hear you.
Oh.
I haven't taught, but speaking of horses, you do tie on the feed bag a lot at these particular events. So you definitely tie it for 2 to 3 weeks before attending. What I wanted to say was, I think for me, it was a real case of seeing that dreams could come true. Because you look around the room and you see other people, and if you're like me, you think, wow, that yahoo doesn't have anything on me, and yet they have a published book. I can do it too. So, I went to my first writers conference about a month after I retired from my 30-some year career with the government. And, I got my first book out that first year, from self-publishing, and then I went with a hybrid publisher later. And I think at every conference, I've picked up something that's helped me a lot. Like I got my editor at my first conference. The second conference, I got my hybrid publisher. A third conference, I got relationships with 2 publishers, and one of them has bought my next fiction book. So everyone has been really, really fruitful for me. And I do pray before I go, and I'm sure, most other people do too, but I want to help other people. And I also pray that God will give me strategic meetings at each of these so that I'll be able to, just do the most that I can for Christ.
That's awesome. I love that. Being a servant. Someone else was talking about. Love that. Being a servant, Nikki mentioned, and it's what it's all about. We're serving God. Now, I wanted to ask Vicki. I've been behind the scenes helping at a conference, and you have too. Can you give us I've seen you work behind the scenes, and you are amazing. But for those who don't see what goes on behind the scenes, it's like orchestrated chaos, isn't it?
Yes.
Can you explain what actually goes into a writer's conference? Because so we can appreciate more what goes, there's so much that goes on. And then we'll get into the other nitty-gritty stuff.
Sure. Well, I wanted to say one thing about attending writers conference. The first one I went to, I thought that I needed to be very at every single workshop, at every single place, at every lunch, at every dinner, and by the end of the 3 days that I was there, I was so worn out and so tired of looking at people and talking to new people and the whole experience that I was just hiding in my room under the comforter because I was just so overwhelmed with just everything going on. And I think Kyle told us probably a year or so ago on a writer's chat, he was like, you don't go to writer's conferences to go to classes. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was following the rules. I was going down the line. He actually was encouraging us that we really need to make sure that we're making contacts and don't be afraid to miss a class and go meet people. And that's why you're there, And so that was huge for me. That has been life-changing. And the last conference I went to, I kind of followed that. I gave myself some grace to go put my feet up for a little while and go meet some people and not feel that pressure of having to be in every single room. So I think that's hugely wonderful conference advice that I would encourage a lot of people, because you can buy the recordings at many conferences. You can listen to that stuff you missed later and catch up on classes and things like that.
Yeah, conferences cost so much money, so we want to try to get all of our money's worth. We're going to talk about that after, but what you just said is so brilliant, Vicki, because we need to take that time to meet people and make those contacts. So tell us, what's it like behind the scenes, behind the curtain?
So behind the curtain, there are a lot of hours of meetings, of talking about the best way to meet the needs of the people that are coming, and the best way to help the instructors that are going to come and be on faculty and meet their needs, whether that's travel or having a room set up for faculty to be able to, have a snack and get away. All of the details, all the logistics have to be gone over in advance, because if you wait till you get there, then it's going to be mass chaos when you get there. So there's lots of hours of planning and talking and brainstorming. And then just implementing, and communication. There's a lot of communication behind the scenes, trying to let everybody know what's expected of them, when they arrive, where they need to be at what time, and all those good things, and how those rooms will look. So,
and everything goes perfectly, right?
Of course. Of course. Now, I think the biggest thing, both teaching, and planning, now that I'm doing the planning and things, is learning just that flexibility of, as each group comes in and what that group needs in my room that day. If it's a big group, then I need to be very broad in the way I teach. But if it's a smaller group, I can be one-on-one. I can give them a little more individualized attention. So being flexible, whether you're an attendee or whether you're part of the conference staff, just is hugely valuable. Makes life easier.
And you guys did such a great job at the Ohio conference and all the other ones. And Tina, you helped out too, right?
No, not at those conferences. I haven't yet. So,
but others. Robin, have you helped out at conferences, setting them up?
No. no, those are so big for me. I'll go around and hang up signs. That's
helping.
The extent of my.
Hi, Michelle.
Yeah, that's about the extent.
Now, I want to talk about, how do we get to a conference? Conferences are expensive, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And as I know, and I want to share with some people who are listening that might say, conferences are way too expensive. I can't get to one, especially the big ones. It's like $1,000 with ticket, with room, with food, with everything. You're going to spend $1,000, and that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So how can one get to a conference? Well, in my first year, God got me to 4 conferences. I don't make a lot of money at all. And let me tell you a little bit how he did it. How many people have scholarships? How many people ever went on a scholarship? Isn't that awesome? And don't hesitate to apply for scholarships. Hi, Nikki raised her hand. I love that. I love this little thing that comes up. Nikki raised her hand. I love it. But you can apply for a full scholarship or a partial scholarship. There are people who donate joyfully, who think, wow, I get to help somebody go to a writer's conference. So don't hesitate to apply for a partial scholarship. That year, my husband worked extra jobs so that I could go to conferences. I worked extra jobs so I could go to conferences. We're all writers. You can maybe get paid for writing to go to conferences. But one thing that I want to share with you, if you don't have a lot of money. Word Weavers International offers scholarships, Tina is saying. But if you don't have the money, because your family's money's tight sometimes, what I've been doing is I've been trying to save a little bit every month, pick one conference, save a little every month, and tell my family members and friends, this means more to me than you buying me flowers or anything. So for birthday, Christmas, anniversary, can you take aside a little money for my conference? And some people would say, well, money's just not a good gift. It is. Help me get to my conference. So don't hesitate. Ask if these are anybody have any other ideas? Conference for a Christmas gift. And yes, ask if you want to get to a conference, you're going to find a way. Anybody, I love this. Robin said, if you save $20 a week, which is like $80 a month, you'll have over $1,000 in 1 year. So maybe you can't get to a conference this year. Save, ask. Be bold and say, hey, I love the bedroom slippers for Christmas. But I'd rather have the $20 to get to a conference. I know that sounds kind of shallow. Renee's looking at me funny. But we want to be bold. We want to get there. Amen. Anybody have any where do you
Cherrilynn,
find scholarships? Yes.
This is Dave Winters. I have a couple of ideas. One thing I did, and I'm sure this isn't recommended by those who put their hard-earned dollars into planning these conferences, but I found that a lot of times I can go for 2 days instead of 3 or 4 and save like half the money. And, if you have a friend in that city, calling and saying, hey, I'd really like to go to a writers conference there, but I really need a couch to sleep on. That can cut down on, lodging costs. I tend to take meals with everybody else because a lot goes on during those meal times. Yes. I don't want to miss that. But that helped me get to Chicago last year. And that is where I got interviews with the 2 publishers. So, the Wheaton Writers Conference. So, definitely do what you can to get there, even if it's just for a couple days. Obviously it's ideal if you can pay for the whole thing and do it all. But, I've tried to do a lot with publishing, publicizing, and then also learning in the writing area. And, frankly, my first year, I think I spent like $25,000 at it. So, wow. It's easy to spend a lot of money, especially since in this business, there's a ton of people that are happy to take your money to edit your book or do whatever, and they really aren't that qualified, but they certainly do have a bank account and are willing to accept your cash. So, I think the writers' conferences have helped me choose a lot better too, because I found, Christian editors that already have a good reputation. You can talk to the other participants and ask them, hey, who did a great job editing for you that didn't charge you an arm and a leg? So, my last book I got edited twice because I'd promised one person, I let them go ahead and do it, even though they were charging more. And I had someone else do it, and it was literally 50% cheaper with the second person. And they, some could say did a better job than the first person. So there's no rhyme or reason on editing costs or anything else, it seems like. But those people that you meet at the conference can really help give tips as to who they like, who they don't, and those relationships can be built.
Amen. Great information, David. Tina, you have a few good ideas to save if you can't get to a big conference, or other ways to save. Can you talk about those, Tina?
Well, I think some of the things that I would do is a couple of times there are places where you can volunteer. Sometimes there's options. I think Proverbs 31, she writes conference. Sometimes people, after they've been a part of that community, can get in as a volunteer, and that can help offset your cost. You may not get to go for free, but you can get it to go at a reduced rate. And then if you ask for like little pieces and tell your family, like we talked about with the Christmas gifts for writers last month, asking people to give you like little bits of your writers conference fees for gifts and for for Christmas gifts and things like that. That also helps. So every conference website, usually, as Vicki mentioned in the chat room, will offer scholarships tab on their website, and you can apply for scholarships to each one, and those are extremely helpful. So those are some ways that you can save a little bit of money too.
And Vicki, can you tell us a little bit about smaller writer conferences?
Yes, we talked about when we did Ohio, we talked about whether we were going to set up scholarships and try to do that, or if we were just going to try to keep the costs lower so that more people could attend. And from that conversation, we really thought about the fact that, cost does prohibit a lot of times people just from being able to go somewhere, because usually you have to travel. When you go to Blue Ridge, I have to get over to Asheville, and that's a haul from North Mississippi. It's just not convenient, even though it's a great conference. So the Serious Writer tour stops have kind of grown out of that conversation, understanding that the need is great in some locations that don't have access to a bigger conference. And it's just a one-day stop. So if you want to come in for the day, we had one in Memphis just on the 6th. And what we did is we brought in just our local authors. We had a day full of workshops. But, we had a couple ladies drive all the way over from Atlanta. We had a couple drive over from Nashville. And so it was close enough where, people could come in just for the day. They come in early that morning, stay the whole day, and then be able to go home that night, if they wanted to go ahead and do that. And it's a much more economical thing than traveling to a conference and doing that, and still getting to do the learning, still getting to meet people that will help you network to get to the next level and get plugged in. So that's kind of where the Serious Writer Tour kind of was birthed from, is understanding that, getting to a bigger conference is sometimes challenging, especially if you're just getting started and you're just trying to learn and you're just trying to get going in the business.
Yeah, and there's other smaller writer conferences in your area that people can go to. Many universities and colleges have writers' conferences, maybe a 2-day. It may not be a Christian conference, but you can go there and you can shine your light and be a servant there as well. But you can also learn, because writing is not just for Christians, it's for everybody. So maybe you could attend a writer conference in your area. But if you can't attend a conference, there's so many ways to get a conference education online. We have Serious Writer Tour, Serious Writer Academy. There's other people who there's other people online. There's so much free information online as well to learn. There's places like The Right Conversation. Cecil Murphy has his Writer to Writer. You can learn a lot on there. Almost an Author. Yay. Almost an Author that I'm the managing editor of. We have a lot of writing information there. You guys could go on and on. Where do you guys go to get writing information, writing teaching if you can't get to a conference or in between times? Anybody want to?
Critiques.
Critiques?
Online critiques. Word Weavers is good, really. Yeah, Word Weavers is excellent, because I was just writing a little comment about that. You can stay linked in with other writers if you feel like you're on your own, and this just keeps you connected to writers, and it keeps the juices flowing a little bit. I highly recommend them.
There's Jerry's Guild, that's different from the Academy. It depends on what you're looking for, but there's so much out there where you can learn. I make it a habit to try to learn something about writing every day. The Lord called me to write 3 years ago, and He's catapulted me where I am. So in the last 3 years, I've just been studying. I have a long way to go, but most of my information, besides writers' conferences, has been online, and a lot of it has been free. And a lot of it has been talking to people. Someone can help me. I'm learning fiction writing. One of my friends can help me with that. I can help them maybe edit. There's so many ways to get education without paying for it. Mm-hmm. So that's how you can get to a conference. Getting to a conference save your money, scholarship, ask for gifts.
Sell things on eBay.
Sell things, yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's a great idea.
Also too, Michelle Lazurk, don't forget to invest in your church body too if you're connected to one, because this is an investment in the kingdom of God. And if
Amen.
anybody who knows you knows you're a writer, and you ask and you go to your church body and say, hey, would you mind helping me get to a writer's conference so I can help spread the gospel further, I think you'll probably have some very generous people who are going to take you on and say, yeah, I would love to invest in that. So there are always very generous people who might be sitting right next to you in your pew that you haven't really thought of, and sometimes it just takes the boldness to ask for it. And sometimes you'll get some people who will, in a sense, give you kind of a quote-unquote scholarship to go to a conference if you can't afford one.
That's a
And
great idea.
something we haven't talked about too. Something we haven't talked about too is the place of prayer in this. That you have to, have to be
based in prayer.
Yeah, you have to pray about it, and God will give you some great ideas that you never thought about, like what to sell on eBay or who to talk to at church to get some guidance or some suggestions. So, yeah, ask, because God wants you to soar. He's given us this ability and this talent, and He wants us to use it. So He wants to help us use it. So
Amen.
Always prayer.
Somebody had typed in the chat area which conference to go to, and Robin, you were saying prayer, and prayer is so important. You may say, I want to go to this conference, but God may want you to go to another conference. Might be a smaller one, it might be a bigger one. He might want you to go there, like Tina and David were talking about, and we were all agreeing with, is we're His servant. He may want you to go there to encourage somebody or to help somebody, or that there might be somebody there that can help you, but that might not be at the conference that you want to go to. So prayer is so important for all of this. Hi, Rebecca.
Hey.
How are the kids feeling?
Well, I've got the flu again, but they're feeling better.
Oh, Lord, help Rebecca.
Thank
Do you have
you.
something to say? Do you have something to add?
Yes. Well, Melissa and I are on the Jerry Jenkins Writers Guild, and I have to tell you, yes, it is like a ongoing conference, because not only are there incredible master's classes where he brings in amazing experts, and he does manuscript repair and rewrites where he shows you live. He will edit somebody's first page, and it's just incredible the difference before and after. But there's also a forum, and to me that has been my conference, because at this stage in my life I can't make it to conferences. I just don't have time. But I have met so many people through this forum and gotten such great critique. I mean, I met Melissa there, which I guess that's even why I've met you. So, yeah, the Jerry Jenkins Writers Guild is an incredible deal for anybody who would like to do that.
Yeah, it's not open yet for membership, but you can put your name on there. And it's and meanwhile, if you want to, Jerry's Guild is not very expensive at all, and our Serious Writer Academy is very inexpensive. So you can do classes there too. There's so many places, and I mean, there's places online that will charge you an arm and a leg. Before you do that, ask around. Like, that's why we're doing this. Conference is great for education, but there's other ways too to get education. So there's kind of like online ongoing conferences as well. Now, does anybody have anything to say about getting to a conference before we talk about what happens at the conference? I know Robin told us a little bit, but I want some people to share their experience of what they were expecting to get when they went to a conference, and did God just do something totally different, or what was their experience at a writer's conference? If it's good, bad, or ugly, please share it. But if it's bad or ugly, just remember we're Christians.
Some of the times when I had experiences that I thought at the time were just awful writers experiences. I had one conference where I didn't get sleep for 4 days. I had somebody that I roomed with that had a sinus infection and I couldn't sleep at night. So it was really, that part was awful. And then I got bad reviews on my manuscript that I submitted. It was just like one blow after another. I felt like I was getting beat up, but it was really an opportunity for God to transform my character. So it changed me. And when I thought I had no perseverance, and this was the argument I had with God at the conference, I don't think you know who you're calling. I don't have that kind of perseverance. And he's like, really? So we'll just see about that. So I learn a lot about my relationship with God in the times when things don't go so smoothly. So there's a lot of opportunity for him to mold me and shape my character in the times that don't seem so fun and so good. And those can be the most memorable moments in my faith walk, actually. So that was some of the things that I learned from it not going as well as I thought it was going to go. It actually went really well because God had an opportunity to change me.
That's a great way to look at it. One of the biggest lessons that I learned because I listened to other writers, when you're pitching your book, pitching is you have 10 or 15 minutes to pitch your story, your book. Expect rejection. Expect rejection. And when I was thinking, at first I said, but we're not supposed to reject each other. But when you expect rejection and you know that it's one step closer to what God has for you. I'm going to tell a really cute story. I sat at a table, my first Blue Ridge conference, and I was I wanted to pitch my book, and I was listening to the gentleman talk to another person, and she was pitching her book, and he was asking her questions. And I'm thinking to myself, I won't say who, I won't say what. But the questions he was asking, I'm thinking, I wouldn't want him to be my publisher. I wouldn't want to publish with him. So then he turns to me and he points at me and he goes, you go, it's your turn. We were at lunch, gave him the whole spiel. He goes, that's a really good pitch. We're not interested in that kind of book. And part of me went, phew. And then when I saw my friend Lori Rolleveld, I ran up to her and I did a high five. I said, I got my first rejection. Yay. She goes one step closer to what God has for you. So we can't take rejection personally, because there are some people, very rarely, who can be mean about it. I've heard some stories, but most of them aren't. When you're doing at a conference, when you're talking to an agent or a publisher, they want you to succeed. So if they give you feedback at the conference, listen and apply. And if they say this is good, but it's not what we're looking for, take it at face value. Go somewhere else, because that's not what that publisher's looking for or the agent is looking for at that time. But Vicki, when you go to a conference, what should we expect? Because you planned it out. So what are some of the things we should expect if we've never been?
Okay. Can I add one thing to what you were just saying real quick?
Of course, please.
My jacket, just for a second. One of the big mistakes that I made at the first really big conference that I went to was I thought I had researched the people that I was going to pitch, but I didn't really think about what kind of things they represented. So I set myself up for failure because I went in and I pitched my general market clean read novel to somebody who didn't represent that. Duh. Like, I didn't think about it at the time. I just, as a Christian and as somebody that was writing a clean read, I thought it didn't really matter, but it really does. Mm-hmm. And I didn't pay attention to making sure that the person I was going to sit down and talk to would really be interested in what I was having to say. So the rejections I received weren't necessarily that they thought my ideas were bad. It was just that they didn't do that. That wasn't what they did. And one person listened to one of my nonfiction ideas and asked me to make it a children's kind of book. And I was like, that really wasn't what I was trying to do either. And it was because they represented more children's things and they thought that they could see that concept that way. And I didn't know enough to know not to do that. And so I faced a lot of rejection that week because I just set up the wrong appointments with the wrong people.
Now,
So
should somebody be afraid to go to a conference?
No.
Why not, Vicki? Why not? Don't they have somebody there to tell you what's going to happen? Don't they have? I mean, can you explain that a little bit, Vicki? Vicki, what do we do? What do you do to sign up for the people, new people, especially new people?
There's a great team of volunteers usually that are involved in that process, that are willing to like say, yeah, here you go. You know, you're going to go down this hallway and hang a right, and that's how you get to that room. Every conference I've been to, there's always been helpful people that are just wanting to listen to what you do and what you say. And when I was first getting started, I met with somebody who I did not realize who he was at the time, but he was somebody that's a publisher. And he was just asking me about myself and what I did. And I said, well, I hate to call myself a writer because I'm a musician and I'm just trying something new. And he was like, well, you aren't what you do, you know, who are you? And he had a really great conversation with me that put me at ease about what I called myself and who I was. And it was really meaningful, something that sticks, because it wasn't one of those planned meetings. It was at a kind of a meet and greet before the thing started. And that meant a lot to me because, you know, I was still like, I don't know, I'm in a midlife crisis. I don't know what I'm doing. And so, but people are there. They want to help. They want you to feel comfortable. I think that's why it's so important to take that time to rest. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you know, I think you can easily get kind of like, you know, that blast of, you know, fire hose information, and you really do have to take that step back and relax and, you know, understand that people do really want to help you. There may be the odd person that's just in a bad mood that day that you run across, and unfortunately, you know, that'll happen because we are all human. And
yes, and we can't take it personally. So
Tina, and listen, Kyle laughs at me because I was headed to teach a workshop in Ohio, and people were standing around looking for coffee, and he's like, you need to make some coffee. We're out of coffee. And I'm like, I'm going to teach a workshop. You know? He's like, what happened to you? You know, I'm like, well, I was focused, laser focused with my next job. And coffee was not it.
Yes. So Tina mentioned something really important. Tina, can you talk about that?
Which thing? The thing about rejection?
The new beginners classes, the new people classes.
Usually a conference will have a class to introduce people to the process and the experience of the conference, what to expect for new attendees. So most conferences will have that. You should look for that in the conference schedule. Also, before you even go, most conferences will have a social media site on Facebook, and they'll tell you all about what's going to happen. I know Florida Christian Writers Conference has YouTube videos, so you can actually go online, and Bethany Jett, one of ours, is the one who does the interviews of the faculty members. So you can actually get to know them as people. And the more you get to know them as a person, the less intimidating it is. Plus, even if you're not going to the conference, you can learn a lot of writing things just from watching those videos. So if you can't go, watch them anyway. I mean, you can learn a wealth of information from top faculty just by listening. So I think those are good ways to diminish that sense of fear before you go.
I think that's great advice, because these social media things start like 6 months ahead of time.
Yes.
And now, something that we should talk about, if you're going to go to a conference, as Tina was talking about, go to the website, even go the year before, go to the website, see who's teaching, find out if they have any kind of, what am I thinking? I just had contests. I'm sorry, contests. Enter the contests. Because sometimes you don't even have to be there to win. Enter the contests. There are people who have entered contests that have won that were totally shocked. I remember the first conference that I went to at Blue Ridge, Kyle won everything. Kyle and Bethany. I was like, and now look where Kyle is. That was 4 years ago this year. And now
I was there. I was at that one. I remember they were going to put a chair on the stage and tell him to just sit in the chair because that's awards that year.
That's great advice. Get to know who what classes you want to take. What I've done was, because there's so many classes, I pray and I ask, okay, what do I need now? Because your needs change yearly. This year, I want to focus on social media. So I, as a junior agent, I want to help my clients with their social media and their marketing. 3 years ago, I was focused on learning how to write. So pray about that. Go through all the classes. Write down the classes that you're going to go to. Find out about the instructors. They're just like us. Some of them just write better than us, or they write better in their genre, and get to know them. There are people that I've gone up to, I didn't even know who they were. I started talking to them and I found out they're a best-selling author. And when you, sometimes ignorance is bliss, but not all the time. Find out who they are so you can talk to them about their cat, their hiking, other things, because this is how we build friendships as well. I know some of you have become best friends with some of the people that probably instructed classes before. What was your instructor? They're just writers like we are. They may be more advanced, but they're there just, to help us as well. But go to the website, learn as much as you can, choose your classes ahead of time. This will keep you from getting exasperated and tired. And if you choose to change your class, that's okay. There's other things that you should expect at a writer's conference. Expect to have fun. Expect to have fun, because Christians love to have fun. They do, and expect to eat and drink coffee. And she's got her coffee. Dell's got her coffee. But there's other things like, why do you attend? Jan, would you mind sharing why you attend writers' conferences?
My first one, I was scared to death. I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't know anything about the writer's world. And I got there. I went to the first meeting on Wednesday on a book proposal, and they were so helpful. And then as I went through the week, I just kept meeting more and more friends. And if I looked like I had no idea where I was or what I was doing, someone would stop me and ask if they could help me. FCWC has become my writing family and word weavers. I met with one woman and she says, your writing isn't a good fit for us, but so-and-so over at the next table doesn't have anybody. Go talk to her. She could probably help you. So they're not there to stop you. They're there to try to guide you in the direction that will help you do better. And whatever critique they give you, take it as not a put down, not a slam, but trying to help you be better as a writer and as a person. They truly care and want to help you.
I think they do. 99.9% they care. They really do. And that's something that I learned, and it made me feel welcome. But I think we need to spend a moment to talk about what not to do at a writer's conference. What not to do. Anybody have, there's a lot of things like,
don't go up to someone in the restroom and talk to them about books. I've heard of that. And I was like, no.
I think, didn't that happen to Diane Mills? Who did that happen?
That could have been.
So
when
don't compare yourself. Yeah, don't compare compare yourself to other people, because you are on your own journey and God's got you right where He wants you. So
yes.
You need to embrace the journey, the lessons you're learning. Look, I've been to more conferences than a lot of you, and my publishing is not where I want it. but God's got me right there. So I need to stop. And I do it. I do that comparison thing, but I have to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough one.
Good advice.
Robin, that is such a big, because we go and we compare ourselves and we have this expectation that we should be in a certain place at a certain time. And I'm not talking about physical. I'm talking about, I should be a best-selling author. I've been doing this for 20 years or whatever. And I think I got this advice from Lori Rolleveld. I love Lori Rolleveld. She's such a godly woman, a phenomenal writer. She's the one that gave me the kick in the pants to get writing. She said, Cherrilynn, you write. And if you write 100 books and nobody buys them, but one person buys one, well, you couldn't write 100 books and nobody buy them, but she said, if one person gets something from one thing you've read and they're blessed, so be it. That's why God called you to write. And I tell myself that when I go to my blog and there's not a lot of comments, I feel bad. I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? And then Lori's words echo in my head. If one person gets a blessing from one thing that I write, I'm being obedient, it's okay. And if that one person is me, then that's okay.
Well, it's that starfish analogy, right, Cherrilynn? It's, if you can take one starfish that's been beached and throw it back out, you've saved one. You may not be able to save everyone. And I mean, that's true in whatever ministry we find ourselves involved in. We can find that one person. And so I think as a speaker, as a writer, as any kind of creative, I think our goal has to just be to be obedient. And then, not worry about the crowd and what happens. That success will come or it will go or whatever, but we just have to be practicing and getting better and working hard at getting better, just so that we can continue to be obedient, for sure.
I think the battle is to stay focused on this as a spiritual journey and as a calling. We're called to worship God with our writing, not just to get results. And if we obey Him and we focus on the worship, then that will be where we will be in the place where God wants us to be at the right time. We may never see how many people we touch. We may never see that. But those conferences are big spiritual warfare battlefields. And we need to be prepared for that and be ready for that and expect you're going to hit some opposition on the way into the conference. You're going to be tempted to compare yourself while you're at the conference. You're going to be tempted with bad attitudes while you're at the conference. But if you pray yourself up and get a team of people around you praying for you before you go to that conference, and you remember every day that you're there to focus on prayer, this will be a rewarding experience for you. And you won't need to be afraid because you'll know that you're not going into that conference by yourself. You've got your arm linked with Jesus and He's walking in there with you and He'll be with you the whole time.
Amen.
Totally. Sorry. One more point to what she was saying. I think part of the joy of heaven will be to see how many people's lives we actually touched with our writing, because I don't think we see all of that here. And I think the reward comes. We don't want a reward here. We want it in heaven. Amen. So, we do get part of that award, but we only see things in part. And I honestly believe that the true joy, part of the joy that we'll experience in heaven will be the people who will come up to us and say, thank you for writing so-and-so article. Thank you for writing so-and-so book. Because I was having a really hard time. I was stuck in my spirituality. I read your book and it inspired me to do X, Y, Z. And then 5 other people come up and say, yeah, I was touched by that person's, what they did because of your writing. And so the ripple effect of what we do goes on and on and on. And I think, honestly, believe that will be part of the sheer joy that we'll experience in heaven, is just how much true reward we had that we didn't see here, but we saw in heaven because, like what everyone's been saying, because of our obedience to what God is asking us to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like you mentioned about Kyle winning all the awards and stuff, and there's a young woman in my Orlando group that I can't even count how many awards she's won, but she still lives at home. She doesn't have a family to take care of. Her life is her writing. So she's got more time to devote to that. I did win 3rd place in a picture book for my Easter book, and it just thrilled me that, someone really thought enough to give that to me. So just because somebody else can get all these awards, don't let that stop you from trying. You may get there someday.
Somebody wrote, I'm trying to read the chat, and somebody said, it is when you enter these contests and you don't win anything, your heart sinks. But it is a good gauge as to where you are. If you don't get feedback, I highly suggest you find somebody who really cares about you and your writing, but is honest about your writing and is a better writer than you are, to help critique, like word weavers or something like that. Because there's nothing wrong with trying to improve your writing, because we're doing it for the glory of God. And I'm putting it out there, if you see something I write and it's not that good, or it needs improvement, please email me and let me know, Cherrilynn, this could use a little improvement. Speak the truth in love. We should be able to do that for one another, because we're serving the King. And we shouldn't be like, well, her writing's good and I wish mine was that good, but I'm not going to ask her to help me because then she's just too good. We need to be helping one another and promoting one another. And I have heard some remarks, and I won't say, but not a lot, but I have heard some nastiness, and you will get some of that at the conferences. That's because we have someone who does not want us to succeed. Right? So that's why we pray.
Yeah, and one of the things about being a Christian is that we never arrive until we die.
We're not perfect.
So we're not perfect, and the people that we listen to sometimes are on a spectrum that is not matched to ours. So we need to understand that they're speaking from a different place. So we just take what we can, and it's called the grocery store method. I don't know if you've ever heard that. You just take what you can use from some of these people that are your contemporaries. I had a gal one time at one of the Blue Ridge meals. She was the leader at the table. She said, "Your writing, your topic is just not interesting. It's just not interesting." And the name, it was called 10 Days to Live. And a gal, I laughed. I thought, okay. Yeah. I blew it off. But a woman that was at the table sought me out and told me, she said, "Don't you listen to her. I don't know what was wrong with her. She shouldn't have said that to you." So just take what you can use and leave the rest.
Yeah. That's good. Now, we only have a few more minutes. Now, if you're planning on attending a conference, some of you are, you've been to quite a few, so you know what to bring. But I highly suggest go to the website, be prepared. There are some conferences that they want women to wear dresses or skirts. There's conferences and there's nothing wrong with that. There are conferences where they will tell you the attire is business casual. There are conferences, go to the website. Maybe, like Tina said, go to the social media site and ask questions. What do people normally wear? How long are the pitch sessions? All that stuff will be at the website. Be prepared. Start now. If you're going to a conference in May, start preparing now. Get a good business card. Get a business card with your picture on it. A picture that shows what you look like now. I just colored my hair back to its normal color because in the summertime it gets really blonde. And if I don't have a picture of me, how I normally look, they're going to look at the card and say, "That's you." I've looked at cards that people have given me, and I don't say it, but I'm thinking, "That's you." Get an updated picture. Make sure one side of the card is blank or there's some white space on your card. Don't put your address on your card. You can look this stuff up on the Blue Ridge Mountain Christian Writers Conference blog. There's other blogs, other blogs you can look this stuff up, the Right Conversation and other blogs. Get a good business card. Get a good one sheet. Last year, people were like, can you look at my one sheet? I said, of course I can. Help one another out. Get a good one sheet, because in your 15 minutes, they're not going to have time to read three chapters. Get prepared. Anybody else bring money, of course. Anybody else? What do you think? What is important about attending a conference? Or does anybody have any follow-ups? Vicki, do you have anything to say?
I would encourage, even you can sign up for critiques at most conferences. They're usually not terribly expensive. We did try the pre-critique for Ohio, where people actually had, a month before they would have their critique with an agent or an author or an editor, where it was an online critique over their manuscript, so that they could make changes before they came to conference and were able to present that. I think it's a solid idea. I just don't know that people really took good advantage of it like they really should have, because I think what happens is, and you mentioned this earlier, we probably wait too close to the conference to get our stuff ready. And so then we run out of time to do the editing. And so if we actually, manage to get things done ahead of time, we'd still have time to edit, still have time to get with our critique groups, or have a critique with someone that could give us some feedback. That could be the big thing. It could be something that could completely change how those appointments would go. And I want to say too, I mentioned my terrible experience by going to the wrong people and having the wrong conversation. When you do research the right people and you go in with no expectations of anything happening, it's a lot more comfortable to have a conversation with somebody about what you're doing when you don't have an expectation of, I must get a contract in order to be successful at this conference. I went in and I took a Kit Kat bar to one of the she's a publisher, because I had read that that was her favorite candy bar. And so I thought, this will be a nice little icebreaker. I'll give her some chocolate and we can chat. And it really was. It was so nice, because she was like, oh, this is awesome. And we just talked before I pitched my project. And it was a much easier meeting than I'd ever had. It wasn't that I was more confident about my projects, I don't think. I think it was just that I was just meeting new people, just learning about what's popular in the industry. I mean, even if you don't have a project ready, I still think it's good to go to those appointments and say, what's being published right now? What are you looking for? What do you see that's beneficial? I mean, you can just have a conversation, meet somebody and talk to somebody and tell them some of the things that you'd like to do, bounce ideas off of people. I've had 15-minute appointments where we've brainstormed, how to get some writing done when the kids are home. I've had some really neat appointments, whereas when I don't have an expectation of, in order for this appointment to be successful, I have to walk away with a contract in my hand. That's when I really have found more success being this long-term relationship that's formed.
One of the things that I wanted to make sure to pass along that I found immensely helpful is that who I meet, my peers, will be the published authors that will be teaching in the next level, and I will be friends with them. I have gathered as many business cards as I could. I made connections, and I listened, and I talked. And every business card that I gathered, I sent an email to them the next day or after the conference saying, I'm glad I met you. I wrote on the back of the card something about them that reminded me of them that I could bring back to the conversation. And I said, you impressed me by this, or this was something that was funny, or I'm glad, but I'm just glad I made that connection with them. And they'll remember you.
That's a great way to end. We've been here for an hour. There's so much that we could talk about, and I'm sure in the future we will. And if you have any questions, you can email me, Cherrilynn at seriouswriter.com. Vicki, you can just go on our page on Facebook, Writers Chat group, and ask some questions. But the biggest thing that I love about conferences is you guys, meeting you guys. I mean, I roomed with Robin. It's just, we've had some great friendships. Next week on Writers Chat, we'll be discussing Pinterest for writers. Pinterest for writers. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. I'm Cherrilynn, and thank you, Vicki, and thank you all. And stay with us for the after party. I'm just going to stop. Join us next week. Pinterest for writers. Thank you.